My screen. Okay, so we are trying to understand these namespaces. So now I was trying to explain that in this arrangement now, this is the local namespace, and this is an enclosed namespace. And we still have our global namespace, which affects the scope of the different variables. So even if I did not declare this to be non-local, if I don't declare this, sorry, and I run this function, when Python is trying to determine what x is in the inner function, it will not find any definition of x. So it's going to go to the next level, which is the enclosed. Now you see what I've been telling you that we'll not talk about enclosed yet because we've not gotten to the scenario where we have the enclosed, but now we have it. So when it checks in our local namespace, there is no x. To check the next level, which is the enclosed namespace for the value of x, it will find it as 2. Even if we modify 2 here, if we say, okay, before that, if it doesn't find it in the enclosed, it goes to the global. So let's do that example and see if we didn't declare any x in enclosed and we didn't declare any x in the inner, then we run it, save it and run. See what all of them be, the global value. Because Python is going to resolve it following this LEGB. For the local, it won't find, it will go to the enclosed, it won't find, it will find in the global. So it will access it and that will be the value. But if we decide to modify the x within the local and say maybe x is equal to 3, you find out that it will not be modified in the global, neither will it be modified in the next level outer here. Okay, so this is where the keyword non-local comes in. So if I say non-local x at this place now, assuming that we have x in the outer, so there's x declared in the outer, and you say non-local x, and I change the value of x. When I run it, you'll find out that the inner x will be 3, and the outer x will be modified to 3. So let's run it because of the keyword non-local. It's just similar to that keyword for global. Wait, hold on. Okay, so non-local x. What if I put the print down so that I see it at this level after I've called the function? So let me print it after I've called, because when I printed it, it still remained 2, right? But let me print it after I've executed the inner function, so you will see the effect. So now you can see that when I shifted my print statement, because before I was printing it before running the inner function, so the value still remained as 2, and we did not see the effect of non-local. But now when I moved it, the print statement, so that it occurs after I've run this function inner, you find out that the inner is 3 as we assigned it. Then the outer has been modified. It's no longer 2, even though we assigned 2 earlier. It's now modified when we try to access it. Why? Because of the non-local. With the non-local keyword, we are able to modify the one in the enclosed namespace. I hope it's clear. Or do you have any questions so far? So you can see where that keyword comes in non-local. When you want to modify the one in the enclosed namespace in the inner function, you use it. It's just like the global. If I decide to global x at this point, x will be modified Let's try that. So you see how this works now. So if I say global X, now X will be modified in the inner function. It will be 3. The enclosed will not be changed. It will remain as 2. Because what we are dealing with in the inner function now, we are pointing to the global namespace. The enclosed will remain as 2, but the global will be modified because we are calling the global X in the inner function. So you see, in the inner, you have it as 3. The outer remain as 2, while the global is modified from 1 to 3. So this is scoped in Python. We have 4 namespaces. The built-in namespace. Now we're talking about the global, which is the one in your base file. But when you start going into your functions, you then have the local and the enclosed namespace, depending if you're having like a nested function, a function in a function, or when you don't have such a scenario, you talk about the local namespace. So do you have any question at this point, or do you understand? Is it clear?
Yes.
It might sound a little bit confusing at this point, but as you get used to writing codes, it becomes clearer. That's why we always say, do the exercises. Okay, do the exercises. If you don't do it, this thing might sound, okay, yeah, I understand it. He's saying it, I understand it, it makes sense. It's logical, but you will not be able to work with it. You will not be able to use it. And this can cause some kind of like error in your code. You won't get what you want to get. You think that, oh, X should have been modified, but it's not modified. It's because of the way you're using that variable based on the scope of the variable. So you have to understand, where is this variable accessible within my code? It depends on where it is defined. Okay, so if it's defined in the global namespace all through your code, you can access it in the global namespace, but you can't modify it in another namespace except you use the keyword. They'll point to it. So I just thought that we should touch this before we wrap up with functions. So that's it. If you don't have any question from this topic so far, then let's talk about the exercises you've been solving. Any challenge or question? So in the absence of any question, do we call it a day?
Yes, we'll read through again. Oh.
Okay, but not just reading through. I want us to at least attempt the exercises so that we get used to writing our own functions.
Okay.
We've had 3 classes now in functions, talked about many things about function. It's good, but for it to really enter, you really need to do the exercises.
Practice.
You just need to practice. If not, you feel like you understand it, but you don't really understand. It's not part of you. There's someone that started the classes with us, and we did maybe like 2, 3 classes he was with us. I was surprised. He came to me and asked later, how can he define a variable as a string? See, he was in class when we talked about it, but he's asking it as a question. Now, why did he remember? It's because he had not been doing the exercises. It's very simple. It's just very simple. You see. And then he wrote some code. I told him how to do it. He did it. And then he was calling a variable he had not defined. I was getting error. And he came back again that what does this error mean? I looked at the code. I said, you've not defined this variable. So you're having the name error. Python does not know what it means. Why is he having such struggle? Even though he attended at least the first, second, third class, we talked about variables, different types of different data types. We talked about all these things. I'm sure he understood it. But now he's trying to do something and he can't do it. Very basic because he didn't practice it. So you can say, yes, I understand it, it's clear. Oh, namespaces, there are 4. Okay. But 2 weeks from now, 1 month from now, if you don't practice it, if you don't do the exercises, you find out that someone might put a question to you, what would the value of this X be? Put it maybe in the inner and write local and non-local, just put some structure and tell you what would be the value of X. You'll be able to resolve it. You just be looking. But when you do the exercises, the thing becomes, more part of you. So we cannot overemphasize this. And like I said last week, if you have any question, any of the exercise you're solving is very challenging, message me. We can quickly do a little tutorial class. We'll tell every other person that we are having tutorial. If they can join, they join, just to solve that problem for you, so you go. But last week, nobody called for such a class, which means that no one is really having time to practice. But we really need to just at least do that one. So I think we would. You say?
Network here is discouraging, obviously.
Sorry.
Try and charge your laptop at the end of the day, you keep struggling to connect.
Understand. Okay, so we'll call it a day at this point.
Thank you very much.
But I also want to have that confidence that you people have done the exercises before we go to object-oriented programming. Because if you didn't understand this one very well, then the other one, you still have small challenge understanding it. Okay.
How do I solve the problem under my VS Code? Or should I chat you up later? If you're going for another meeting.
No, I'm not going for another meeting today.
Okay.
Can you share your screen?
Taking light. Oh, let me see.
So like after the class, we just,
Host disabled participant screen.
Okay, no. I will send you a Meet, Google Meet link, and then we'll do it after the class so that we can resolve that your Visual Studio Code. Okay. All right. So thank you for coming today. Have a nice evening.
Sorry, Leziga, can you hear me? I was asking a question in the chat. If you can hear me.
I've responded to your question. You asked what chapter we are dealing with, right?
Yeah.
It's chapter 13.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Our target is to at least get to chapter 14, and we know we've covered the basis. So 1 more chapter to go. But that chapter 14, we're not going to use one class, and it will be maybe 2 or 3 classes, because OOP, there are many concepts for you to understand. We take it step by step. All right.
All right. Thank you so much. I was trying to cover up one other